Welcome to Brain Wellness, the podcast. I'm your host, Mandy NP. Each episode will bring you a new topic or interview related to brain health and wellness as part of my mission to help you on the path to a healthier, happier brain. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. My guest today is Lainne Love. Lainne is an award-winning spiritual psychology coach and leading-edge healer specializing in transmutating trauma, overcoming limiting beliefs, and breaking free through self-mastery. She is an entrepreneur, best-selling author, mystic, and momma. Her presence is rooted in universal law and metaphysics, informed by spiritual psychology and neuroscience, and supported with subconscious reprogramming and energetic insights. Lainne's work is known for her dynamic, accessible, and innovative approach to healing. She has transformed lives worldwide, helped her clients restore their ability to dig deeper, find more within themselves, and birth the legacy they are here to deliver. She has been seen in podcasts on Fox, CBS, NBC, Google, ABC, and is a senior level executive contributor at Brainz Magazine. Thanks for being here today, Lainne.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so funny to hear your life like read back to you. It's that's cool. That's nice.
I know, right? That's why I love doing that because I get to see like facial expressions of people too and see how you respond to hearing the brag about you. I think that's part of what we're going to be talking about today is kind of living your legacy, that being okay hearing what you've done and that legacy that you have created.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
and being excited about adding on to that.
absolutely, absolutely. So to start off my show, I always like to hear people's backstories because I think that's a huge part of why we do what we do. So tell me a little bit about you. How'd you get to where you are today?
A long and windy road. I say that because it's okay if you are having that experience in your life too, where it feels like, what the heck? Why am I turning right? Why am I going backwards? Why am I going over there? Why is it taking so long? How do all these pieces fit together? Eventually, they will. They will. And so if that is your path, it's going to be okay. It's going to be better than okay. It's all going to turn out. You're going to see how all the pieces fit together, and it's going to be even better than you imagined. And if that's not your way or your path, and you're more of a straight line, that's also amazing. Like each each thing has its value, and each path, we're set to learn things along the way. And it just took me a long time to find peace with that because I was always in a hurry to get there. And I feel like that slowed me down. So like backstory, I grew up, my mom was a teenage mama, single mom who had 4 kids. And so that just paints, I think, a picture where you can fill in the blanks. She didn't have a lot of skills, tools, or resources. And in order to provide us an environment that was safe or like filled with like success. So there was a lot of struggle, a lot of chaos, and a lot of things that I needed to heal in my life. I've experienced all the kinds of different of abuse through, whether it was through my childhood or thereafter my own life choices. I think in large part because of what I learned or didn't learn within my childhood. And so I resonate with you, and I understand what it is to come from, you know, it feels like nothing. I feel like I started, 500 points back, and it took me so long just to even get to zero, so then I could compete with the people that at least like started at zero. And that contributed a lot to the feeling of like lostness as I started with like, why am I here, there, and everywhere? Because there was a lot of things that I needed to discover, uncover, and undo. And that leads us into like the brain, or brain health and wellness. Throughout my path of healing, there was a lot of different modalities and ways and things that I needed to heal, and that we do need to heal. There isn't just one thing. Like if you're going to be working on your body, you also get to work on your mind. You also get to work on your spirit. You also get to work on your energetic system and structures. So everything is interconnected and interrelated, and it took me a long time to figure that out. And I'm grateful now, like looking back through all the different modalities that I studied and all of the different modalities that I used on myself to get to that point of healing that I was looking for, and I'm still working on. I am a work in progress. I am a working in progress, and I feel I'm finally in a point in my life where I feel really good about being work in progress. I find peace in that and understanding that it's okay. I'm probably never going to be done, and I feel really proud about myself and good about where I am, and peaceful also in the point of like where I can look at trauma in my life and the gifts that it's given me, and finding gratitude for the growth that I got to experience, and how of those lessons have colored my life, so now I can have more compassion and understanding when I'm dealing with my clients and the challenges that they're facing. You know, I've picked myself up out of the gutter several times, and I know what that's like. I know what it's like to not want to be here anymore, and to be making the plan, and to not seeing the way. I know what it's like to not have any resources or help. Seemingly, I say seemingly because even then, when we feel really, really alone, even when, like, in essence, it feels like we are alone because there isn't family, there isn't money, there isn't a partner. I feel like I am doing it on my own. Looking back, I can see how I wasn't. Whether it would just be like something that might just show up that offered me that little bit of support, or friends or family at that time helping me, even though maybe it didn't feel like help. And often it did. But the times when you just feel really alone, when you look back, you can see, oh, actually, it feels like there was some sort of divine intervention there. Because where did that come from? Or how did that work out? And so just I plant all those seeds to just for you to reflect in your life, even when we're feeling really, really alone. And I don't want to minimize like not being alone, like that feeling of like, but I am alone. Is I'm a single parent. I don't have a partner, and I don't have family help. So in that way, um, I have felt really alone. So and in that way, I am really alone, and still I'm not. So I just offer that invitation, because I know what that can feel like, but I also know the joy on the other side of it, and like that feeling of being held when you actually really realize that maybe I'm not, and that there's something here for me. That's a really long-winded way to share a little bit about my backstory, but I think it's really important because people's stories were the things that helped to pull me up and out,
Mhm.
when I got to witness people that had sort of similar backgrounds or stories, and they were doing it for themselves. They were crawling out. They had found the other side, and that really helped me to find the inner strength that I needed to, because I saw that there was somebody else similar to me
Yeah.
that was able to do that. And so I share that, you know, I've had a lot of dark spots, and there can be light on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just so important to get out your backstory because it gives light to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
You've been there, you've experienced it. It gives you more clout to help other people because you've been there and you know what it feels like. And it's hard to explain to people when you've been in some of those situations if they haven't been there, and they try to give advice and they always mean well, but they don't know how it felt. I mean, none of us really knows exactly how it feels for somebody else because we're not exactly in those same experiences. We haven't had the same life experiences in total, but when we're going through something similar to somebody else, that's when we can have compassion for them and help them grow, because grew out of that same kind of experience.
Yeah. And understanding the pain and the frustration that goes along with that. I was so frustrated and angry and felt so stuck for so long. And I really know how all consuming and debilitating that can be and how hard it is to get out of. What it
Yeah.
takes from, well, what it took from me. Hopefully it's easier from other people,
Mhm.
but it wasn't, it didn't feel like it was that easy. Didn't feel like it was that easy, but that goes into that self mastery part and that like that utilizing the tools that you have and really just practicing them. That's what it is. It's like a moment to moment practice.
Yeah.
I was hoping or thinking really naively that it would just be like, ta-da! Like all of a sudden, it's completely different. But and maybe that's a possibility. I always like to add that disclaimer to pretty much any statement. Like I do believe that anything's possible, so it could be that way. It could
Yeah.
be a ta-da moment for anybody and everybody out there. And if it's gradual, like it was for me, then that's okay too. And
Yeah.
celebrating that.
Yeah. I'm always a
Celebrating
little
that.
envious when people do have that sudden moment, because that's never been my case. It's always the sudden is more the negative things that come, and then you have to gradually get out of it, has been my experience. But
Me
yeah,
too.
it's yeah. So there's definitely a spectrum of those results and what happens. When you use the term self-mastery, it kind of makes me think of when I went through nursing school, the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs when you're learning psychology. So self-mastery to me would be kind of close up there with that self-actualization. But can you, for people that maybe aren't familiar with that, can you describe what that self-mastery is? What does that mean?
To me, that means that it's you against you every day. I think that that's not a new thing for people, but really, like that's it. That's it. When you want to do anything, have anything, create anything, it's always you against you every day. So how do you start to win that? That's practicing mastering yourself. No, I'm choosing this. I know this is what I want. This is my plan. This is how I get there. Like if I get up, I'm choosing that I'm going to wake up at 5:30 and exercise before I go to work because that's the only time that I have and it's actually really important to me for whatever the reasons are and I'm making that choice. I'm choosing that I'm going to eat a certain way. Whatever the thing is or the things are in your life, you're going to have a battle with yourself moment to moment. So when the alarm goes off, you have the chance to say to yourself, 5 more minutes, or I'll start tomorrow, or I'm really tired, or whatever that looks like. Okay, if you've made the commitment to yourself, then the mastery part is you stick with your commitment. You're your word to yourself. And each time that you do that, you take ownership of yourself. And that becomes the practice of self mastery. And it's moment to moment.
Absolutely. Kind of like living out your willpower. Can you do this thing that you said you were going to do?
Yes, I think it's above willpower.
Mhm.
Um, I think it is, well, it's mastery. It's like I don't, because you're not going to have that willpower.
Right. Right.
You're not. It's above and beyond that. It just is. It just is who you are. This is who I am. I say this is who I say I am. This is who I choose to be. And and that's it. Full stop. And that is really really powerful
Yeah.
and becomes easier every time you practice it.
Yeah. Doing it over and over and over again, because you can't master something the first time. There are those lucky few people that can be good at something at the first time they try it, but that's not most of us. We have to practice.
And even then, I wouldn't call that mastery. Being good at something the first time still isn't, or if something comes easy to you, I don't know if that's, I would include that in mastery.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, you really do need to do it over and over and over again. Become the expert at it.
Yes.
Good. Good. The other thing you mentioned was kind of leaving your legacy. So What does it mean to leave a legacy first off?
Yeah. Well, to me, what that means is that we're all here for a reason and a purpose. There is only one you, that you are a one of a kind wonder. There never will be and never has been the combination that makes up you. That's huge. I mean, think about that. The universe is infinite and there's never going to be another you. You have a purpose, you have a mission. You're here for only you know what that is in your heart. And often people say, but I don't know. But I don't know, tell me. And yes, there definitely are ways to know that, but you do know.
Yeah.
So leaving that legacy is essentially living your mission, doing the thing that you came here to do, living your life with that purpose. And that's going to look different for every single person.
Mhm.
I think that's really important, that we always think like it has to be, well, I have to be the inventor of the airplane, or like something that really shifts
The
humanity, that
brand.
one big thing. But guess what? Let's go back to the airplane. How many people did it take to create that, the circumstances in which that could happen? What were the people in the supporting roles doing that were helping the inventors to get to the place that they were? Who was it that crafted the materials that they used to build the plane? Who made who made all of those things, right? We don't think about all the little things. We're only looking for like the big ta-da again. It's me, I'm at the forefront, but it's not the person just at the forefront that made all of those things happen. So your legacy could be that you created that a specific kind of wheel from a particular kind of material that then was able to be utilized to make this special craft, and it couldn't have happened without that wheel. So when you really think about your legacy, it's like, what is it specifically that you are here to create and contribute that adds to the greater picture, the bigger
Mhm.
picture, the whole picture?
And what if we don't know what that bigger picture is, what that bigger mission is that we're supposed to be leaving this legacy for?
We always know, and that then becomes the work. I had no idea that this is what I was going to be doing. It wasn't even in my wheelhouse. I wasn't thinking about it. It took me a lot of different steps. And there's always that little whisper within ourselves that we just choose not to listen to. You know, probably all of us have had that relationship where I use that example of the whisper, where we're like, oh, but on the outside, but they're so good looking, or they're so successful in this area. I'm not, even though my inner voice is saying, no, no, no,
Mhm.
we're not listening. It's the same thing for your mission. It's, maybe you don't think that it's big enough, but I want to be the inventor of the plane. I don't want to create the wheel.
Mhm.
I And so in that way, but what you don't know is the impact that thing is going to have. And what you don't know is, without you, the whole picture can't be created. So it's so, so important.
Mhm.
So how do you figure that out then, when you're like, okay, well, but I am being honest with myself? Well, be honest with yourself and know that you're not being honest with yourself. Let's get that straight. We're all unfortunately taught to lie to ourselves often, from a very small age, and that is reaffirmed by almost every person in our lives. We're really not encouraged to listen to the signals of our body, the quiet inner voice. We're really encouraged to be in a particular mold, and that's the only option. I think that, over the past definitely 20 years, that mold is being broken, and people are more interested in being something outside of the mold, but we still have the dialogue and the energy around us that's trying to keep us into that. So even just recognizing that you don't even know what you don't know. That's step one. And then two, it's okay, well, how do I start to listen? You can practice like on really easy, simple things throughout the day. Like, okay, do I want water? Yeah, I want water, because maybe what you actually need is juice or herbal tea or sparkling water, for whatever that has in it. It might not even make any sense to us. Well, why would I want that? Juice has a lot of sugar. Why would I want that? Maybe your body needs like what's in that. It's just starting to ask yourself so that you can get the answer, and then start to practice. You can ask the questions afterwards. I'm holding this. Do I want tea or coffee? Maybe you don't want either, but I'm in the habit of drinking coffee every day. Of course I want to have it. No, you don't. That's just your habit. So then that would lead us into step two, is just start to examine like your habits. Like, why are they there? How did they get there? Did you even choose them, or did you just adopt them? Because that was what was modeled to you for most of us, all of us. There, we have adopted them, whether our parents did it, had those habits, or our friends, or our schoolmates, or our religious background, or even just the country that we live in. All of those different factors, and there are more than that. There's then your ancestral patterns, which are deeply rooted in you and your habits and how it is you're showing up. And then there's the collective habits as well. So when you think about that, wow, I'm being influenced all the time by all these little things. Wow, no wonder it might feel hard to like know who I am and what my bigger mission is. But even just having that awareness, starting to notice that the things that you think and the habits that you have maybe aren't yours, that starts the unraveling process and helps you to get at what your particular mission is, and to see the value in it, to shift your perspective and see, wow, it is so important.
Mhm.
If I don't do this, if I don't clean up, if I'm the cleaner and I don't come and do my job and clean this up, there's no space for the people that are going to come in and start building to do the building. How important is that?
Mhm.
That just elevates that job to a new position, because you're looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So that's also part of the programming, and thinking about like what your mission is and what legacy you're here to
Yeah.
leave. Yeah.
And what if that legacy or that mission changes over time? So we have shifts in kind of what we do, and after analyzing our habits and what we're doing, we can shift some of those things. But what if in one of those shifts we realize that our mission isn't exactly what we thought it was going to be?
I'm raising my hand to that one.
Uh-huh.
I mean, for me, it was always like the general idea was I always knew that I wanted to help people. But I mean, I've been a preschool teacher. I've taught in 4 different countries. I've worked in chiropractic clinics as a shiatsu therapist. I've worked in restaurants. I worked in restaurants for 12 years. I loved that industry. It was amazing. I was being of service. I was helping you to have a great time. I was creating an experience. Um, I worked in the corporate world as in administration for 6, 7 years in total. Um, Again, being of service, being supportive. It was always that was the similar thread. I was always there to serve. So yeah, it took me a while. Like, how do I know in which capacity? And maybe each capacity was the right thing at that particular time. Because as I started to collect all that skill set, each skill that I learned was really valuable to get me to where I am now.
Yeah. So adjusting those missions to where you
Adjusting,
need to
there's a
be.
lot of pivoting
Mhm.
on your path. And again, if I look at, there was exit points that I knew I was ready. Okay, maybe I was meant to work in this particular industry because of the skill set it was going to offer me. And maybe I could have done like 5 other different industries. The skill set would have been similar. But there was exit points where I knew, going back to that inner voice, that it was time for me to exit, and I didn't, because I didn't know what else I would do. I felt afraid. I didn't
Yeah.
trust. I didn't know. And what happens there is I wasn't doing the right kind of work. I've always been doing some kind of work, but that also becomes a part of the process is,
Mhm.
are you doing the right kind of work? So we all, like most of us, have a toolbox, right?
Mhm.
We have hammers, screwdrivers, pliers, sanding paper, like all the different tools. Well, if I need to make a hole in the wall, I'm not gonna use sandpaper. I mean, if I rubbed for a really long time, maybe I could create some kind of, but I'm probably gonna pick up a mallet or a hammer, right? So what's the tool that you're using? Because often we just blindly use things. Like I use a butter knife for everything. Even though I have tools, I always go back to the trusty old butter knife. And
Sure.
often that's a great tool. And there are those tools in your life where you can, the butter knives of your life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But knowing when it's time to pivot. And again, that just comes back to being able to listen. We all know. We can't say we don't know, because we do.
Mhm.
I knew when it was time to leave those jobs and I didn't. And guess what
Mhm.
happened every single time?
Mhm.
It didn't work out well for me. Like something bad happened. So, well, bad.
Yeah.
Something that I found unpleasant. Something that I knew was trying to push me in the direction that I needed to go. It was making me more uncomfortable and more uncomfortable, until eventually I'd go in the direction that I was being guided to go in.
Sure.
The journey requires a lot of trust, and that goes back to, again, using the right tools at the right time. So, and then I was doing a lot of therapy, receiving a lot of therapy. I still do, but I didn't realize I outsmarting myself, and therefore being a disservice to myself, because I intellectually understood. I mentally was processing, all of the reasons for all of these things. And that's great, it's a step. But I wasn't dealing with all of the emotional part, even the spiritual part, and the physical part, because our experiences get logged in all of the different layers and aspects of ourselves. So they get stuck in your body. That's why we get sick. That's why we have disease. That's why we have heart attacks. That's why, all, you name it, you can relate that to an experience and a trapped emotion. And
Yeah.
there are, you know, thousands of years old traditions that have logged this and cataloged this.
Yeah.
It's not like some sort of random idea. No, it's been studied over thousands of years, and it is known that your trapped emotions have a detrimental effect on your physical biological form.
Mhm.
So you need to move through them, process them, and let them go. But our minds, as we can, although they're meant to serve us, they can get in the way of that healing by tricking us
Yeah.
into thinking that we've done it, because we're trying to avoid feeling uncomfortable,
Sure.
but not realizing that we're actually creating a lot more discomfort by not healing the things that needs to be healed. And that's an interesting thing about the mind, is we have a culture that makes it the most important thing, but it's important, but it's not the most important thing, and it shouldn't be the the tool that bypasses all of the others. Actually going with your gut first, if you were gonna, have something be the thing that leads the way, going with your heart or your gut would be a more aligned tool. But really, ideally, we want to be using all of them. And again, that comes back to practice.
Yeah.
It's just, it can seem hard or seem confusing because we just haven't been practicing that. We've been practicing just deferring to the mind.
Mhm.
But this idea of your gut feeling or going with your heart, those aren't new ideas.
Mhm.
It's just learning to integrate all of those things. Okay, gut, what do you say? Heart, what do you say? Mind, what do you say? Is there a disconnect? Is all three saying something different? Are two saying the same thing and one saying something different? Like what? Starting to practice asking yourself that is a really powerful tool, and it doesn't take that long. It might take a
Mhm.
little bit longer to begin with,
Mhm.
but you'll surprise yourself. You'll surprise yourself with that practice. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think we've been so ingrained over the years to just not listen to those little signals when they
Yeah.
come up. And we're trying to be logical about things rather than really investigating and seeing, is this the right answer? Instead, we're told kind of what to do, and we think we need to follow that path. And you kind of mentioned staying in positions longer than necessary. But then there's the flip side when maybe we should stick with things a little bit longer and we give up
Hmm.
too soon.
Yeah. How do you know?
Yeah. So how do you push through if you think this is your mission and you think you're on the right path and you're pushing, but it seems like everything is pushing back. How do you know when you should be pushing forward and when it is time to just kind of take a step back from it?
To me, how I know that is when I start arguing with myself. Like, but it's such a great idea, or I should do it. Like, it it logically makes sense to stay.
Mhm.
That's when, to me, you kind of know when everything else in your body is saying, no, and you're like, but why? But why? But why? But why no? But why no? It makes so much sense. That is the time that you know that that's not the thing. When you find yourself arguing with yourself, when you have to argue with yourself, convince yourself to do something, that is the no, especially when it seems like a good thing, quote unquote good thing, like it's not a dangerous thing. It's like, but it's $150,000 a year, why wouldn't I do it? That's would be stupid of me not to do it. But the inside is saying no. That's especially when it's something that's good and you're arguing with yourself. That is very clear. Okay, so how about if it's not good and you're arguing with yourself? I mean, let's think of, well, like, how about like quitting your job when you're like, okay, this is not the right job. I know I need to leave, but I also need to like eat and pay my bills and do all those things. So what do I do? So what do you do in that situation? Because that's a really tough one when everything's telling you no and you still feel like you have to go. Well, do you have a plan? Yeah, potentially. Yes, not potentially. Yes, I think it's foolish to make that decision. Like, yeah, I'm just going to leave if you haven't been doing the work. So, have you been doing the work? Are you working on yourself? Are you working on your trauma response? Are you working on your mindset? Are you clearing stuck energy? Because often we can just feel like to anything and everything because we're actually just stuck in our trauma and nothing feels right or good. So, are you doing all of the work? If you're doing all the work, great. You still feel ick in your job. Okay, well, what is it that you would rather be doing? Well, I don't know. Okay, if you don't know, then try even just doing something. Is there something that you want to do, like that you've always wanted to do? Maybe just start like taking a class or something. Like, well, actually, I've always wanted to paint. I always wanted to be an artist, but I was always told I'd never make any money and there's no value in that. Okay, so maybe just start by fulfilling yourself and starting to like forge that path and what that next step will be by one, start with doing the work. Don't make any decisions until you're actually doing the work, because yes, then your response or your answer is going to be a little bit different, because you're actually going to be able to see what it is, because you're removing your trauma responses. Like I changed my trauma response. I didn't even know that that was actually possible. Like I was
Mhm,
a freezer,
mhm,
and now after all the work I've done in myself, I've turned more into a fighter.
mhm,
But I did not understand fighters. I was jealous and envious of fighters because
mhm.
I would freeze, and fighters would get really annoyed with me. What do you mean you can't just do this? I'm like, I can't. I literally like, I just shut down. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't. I wish I had the fight in me, but I don't. So as I began to work on myself, that's changed.
Mhm,
So even something that you think is like innate, it's not necessarily so.
mhm.
So begin with working on yourself, and then if you still don't know, then start to look at what your interests are, and take some of those classes. And it seems like it's not even related, but it totally is. Are you moving your body?
Mm, mhm,
How you sit in your body, how you inhabit your body, makes a significant difference
mhm.
as to what it is that you think that it's possible and what it is that you are going to be doing in your life. You need to have a strong, resilient body to be able to do all of the things that you came here to do. So, are you taking care of your body? And I promise you, pretty much guarantee you, that if you are doing the work, working on your body, and you start to like live your interests, that answer is going to come to you.
Yeah. And I'd add on to that too, not even just moving your body though. I love the idea of body movement. I was a health coach for years and tried getting people to find the right exercise program for them, but even just your posture, that
Mm-hmm.
one step of standing a little taller, it makes you feel more confident, even if you aren't yet. So it's that whole little fake it till you make it type of thing, but you can get there by just making little changes along the way.
Yeah,
And
go for
I've
a walk.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah. I've had conversations
body.
recently about a lot of this stuff too, and just identifying what you've always been versus what you want to do. What
Mm-hmm.
you've always meant been might be one of those trauma responses, and it might be, oh, this is how I was because of that trauma. That trauma put me into this area, and this is my trauma response now. But as you mentioned, working on it gets you out of that trauma response, and you can have a whole new aspect on life. You don't
Yeah,
have to be what you've always been if that's not serving you.
yeah, and that isn't you, and that was really me. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know that's not who I was, because I didn't know I was stuck in actually a trauma response for pretty much my whole life. So I didn't, how could I possibly know that that's not me when I haven't known anything different? It felt so frustrating to me. Um, and you can know that by starting to do the work. And when somebody asks you to do something and you don't do it, I say this because I wish I would have been aware of this, or known this, because I didn't realize what a disservice I was doing to myself.
Yeah.
Do the work that they're asking you to do. Don't be too smart for it. Oh, I already know this. Oh, I've already done that. Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Because you would be having different results. I bet you, if you had already done it. And I didn't know that, and I feel like, I mean, my journey is my journey, and it's meant to be that, and there's still a part of me that feels like I wasted like 8 years of my life by outsmarting myself and holding myself back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we could go on about this all day, but I'm looking at the clock and we should probably start wrapping up. You've built on this. What projects do you have coming up that you wanted to share with people?
Yes. Well, this year it only took me 12 years to get my first book out. You can do it. I believe in you.
Mhm.
My first book was How to Use Hypnosis to Master Your Brain. And then from that, my second book is A Bigger Mission, and that was co-created with 11 other amazing people. And that is released this year. And we also have our workbook coming out in our audiobook, and it was a best-selling book in multiple categories. It's an amazing book about traumatic incidences that each author experienced in their life, whether it was suicide or alcoholism, or in my case, the time that I got mugged, and what it took from us to move through that particular challenge to get to the other side. So it's just they're really raw, inspiring stories that helps you to know that you're not alone and that you can do it. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of the bigger mission.
Awesome. Awesome. I look forward to hearing more about that. How can people find you if they want to learn more about your books, your anything else that you've got going on?
You can find me. I'm so blessed. Lainne.com, Lainne, and you can book a call if those are still available. You can book a call and you can see how I can help you. I can help to identify a couple of steps that you need to take, particularly for you, so that you can be achieving the results, the bigger mission. You can be leaning into your bigger mission on that call, and potentially whether or not we're a good fit to work together.
Awesome. I will include that in the show notes as well so people know how to find you. Any last words before we wrap up? Last things you want to share with our listeners just to think about and get them started on their process?
Yeah, you matter. You're so important. I don't think that we can say that enough because it's really hard for us to hear. Even as I say it, sometimes it's still hard for me to hear, to really believe that I matter, but you do.
Yeah.
You really matter. You're so important, and you're here for a reason. You're here with a purpose, and I'm so excited to get to witness whatever that is. And you're special, and you're worthy, and you matter.
Beautiful words to end on today. Thanks so much for being here, Lainne.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Brain Wellness, the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this with others to help me continue on with my mission to help people live healthier, happier lives. Go to www.brainwellnesssolutions.com to see what I'm up to and get links to all the social medias there. See you next time.